Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast, where we come and learn about ancient spiritual truths from the Bhagavad Gita, and we learn how to apply them to our everyday lives. We are here with our live studio audience from all around the US, all around the world, and Achyuta Gopi, my co-host. How are you doing this morning, Achyuta?
I am feeling enthused, enlivened, and invigorated.
Wow, that's good. That's great.
It's gonna be a
I
good
I
day.
am feeling happy, but neither of those three things that you mentioned. I'm feeling happy. I feel like the change of the seasons is hitting me intensely. So I'm feeling really happy, like my mood is really good, and spiritually I'm feeling very sheltered, but physically I'm feeling a little all over the place. But I think what's important is that we're here and we're together, and I'm just really reflecting on the importance of Sangha and coming together, and that the spirit can feel enlivened and enthused and invigorated, even though the body might not be. So I am feeling the same way. Just
Exactly. And part of that is I was reflecting on different prayers that we say. And one of those is a Gayatri mantra, but within every single Gayatri mantra is the word enthused. Like we're asking the Lord to please enthuse me. And so I was like, wait a second. If I'm reciting these and I'm not feeling enthused, there's a problem. I've
mm,
really got to like figure out how to imbibe more enthusiasm.
yeah,
So I
I
was like,
love that.
I'm enthused.
I love that you brought that up because I've been reading a book which really talks about the mantras and the Gayatri mantras, and it's explaining them in detail. And I love that point that, like, yeah, we're in every mantra we're saying like,
Every single.
and this enthuses me towards you. And like this morning I woke up in such a state, and like the two things that were on my mind this morning, I was like, I have to do my Gayatri and I have to be ready for Spirit Matters. And and I was like, you know, and it was really nice because I was reflecting on what you were just saying. It's like, yeah, even though my body might not be all there, but my spirit feels very enthused,
Mm,
and that's more important, actually. So anyway, we are enthused and we are here.
that's right. And may you all be enthused.
May you all be enthused. And we are reading Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, and we left off at verse 44. And we'll take it
Yes,
from there. You want to read, Chita?
sure. Krishna is still speaking to Arjuna. Text 44. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them.
Mm, those are some great verses.
Yeah, that 44 is something.
Yeah, that 44. I was right about to say that 44. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that reminder.
Right? In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. This made me think of when they speak about celestial devas or demigods.
Mm,
And they say that they often don't commit fully
mm,
to a life of devotional service
mm,
because their jobs are too important. Their lives are too important. Their lives are just too fancy for me to put all of that aside and just surrender everything to Krishna with the determination that is needed to surrender in this material world.
mm,
And I think that determination is the key word. We
mm,
think that when we surrender, we are going to surrender. We've surrendered once. and then everything changes. But Krishna is using this word determination so many times within Bhagavad Gita to show that this material world is it's going to feel like an uphill battle sometimes. It's going to go in waves and it's going to feel like an uphill battle. You are going to need determination and fortitude.
Yeah. You're going to need determination. You're going to need fortitude. And I really like that Krishna also uses words throughout the Bhagavad Gita that kind of show the seriousness of the nature of the material world. Like he's not being soft-handed about it. He's being pretty like blatant, like, hey, this is a bewildering place. This is not your friend, like this is a place where you're gonna lose yourself, where your heart can get bewildered. And even Arjuna comes to that conclusion in verse 7. He's like, I'm totally bewildered. I have no idea what to do. I don't know what's left or right. I don't know what is good for me anymore. And that as the beginning of where Krishna sees, like, now I can give instruction to you because you've surrendered. I always go back to that verse because I'm like, we have to be able to get to that place of understanding that the material world is intoxicating, it's bewildering, and we have to continuously remind ourselves of that so that we can be humbled, so that we can come to Krishna and seek for guidance. Because the moment that you start, intoxicating, the moment that you start being like, this is nice and I can do whatever I want and I'm the controller. Oh, look at me. I got the, oh, who? Krishna who? What? Like the moment I start going in that direction, it's like, ooh, it's like, there's that saying, be humble or be humbled, right? And it's like, the world's gonna have its way with you one way or another, because not because it's inherently evil, right? But because it's inherently built in a way where it is temporary and things don't last, and things are a kind of distorted reflection of reality, a distorted reflection of the spiritual world. So in a sense, it's like, everyone in this material world trying to win. We're trying to win and be right and win and be right. And it's like, Bhagavad Gita is really breaking it down. It's like, there's no winning here. Like this isn't where you're going to do the winning. And actually, the more that you convince yourself that you got to be in that hamster wheel and beat the other person and be, prideful and ego and yes, and I'm going to, all this stuff, it's like the more you're going to be stuck there. And the verse that we read 2 verses before this, right? The Bahushaka that we were talking about yesterday. It sounds so good. Bahushaka. It's like the mind has that what's it called, ability. It's like we're given that ability to turn towards material nature, or it's free will, or to turn towards Krishna. And it's like, if we turn towards material nature, Bahushaka, our intelligence, we're just going to be many branch, we're just going to be all over the place, and we're never going to go deep into that relationship with Krishna, which is the thing that's going to take us out of this cycle of samsara.
Yeah. I think both in our relationships with Krishna and our relationships with each other, the same is true that if we do not allow ourselves the vulnerability, the safety, the freedom to go deeply and enter deeply into those relationships, we will not find the lasting happiness that we are looking for. And we see it, people are like, oh, I'm friends with this person and this person and this person and this person and this person, and none of them are deep and they're all just shallow friendships. And you could be a social butterfly all you want, and still you will feel incredibly, heartbreakingly empty. That reciprocation comes with the depth that we put into our relationships. And I think that it's so interesting to see how everything, of course, is reciprocal. For every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. But this goes the same for our relationships and our emotions. Everything is reciprocal, including and especially Krishna. And so, like you were saying, we are stuck in this place of perverted reflection because our desires were a perverted reflection of the desires in the spiritual world. We want to be in charge. Krishna says, well, that is not possible here. But because I'm a person who doesn't believe in the impossible, I will make it possible for you. But for that, we need a different place.
Mm.
And we have tricked ourselves into thinking we can be master. There's already a mistress here, and she's super powerful. And like you said, you were saying this material world's not your friend. And I think that we get caught up in thinking, like, but it could be. Like, yeah, let me try.
But it's so shiny.
You know? And it's glittery, and I'm really distracted by the shiny. And every time I think I'm on this, dedicated path, there's something else that's shiny. And maybe it could be. Like, what do you know? Like, come on now. I can't just believe you because you said it. But it's true. And we need to remind ourselves, we have acharyas and spiritual teachers who have given really like graphic descriptions, like wake up in the morning, beat your mind 100 times with a shoe, and then before you go to bed, beat it again 100 times with a broomstick. Like, like when we're thinking about it, it's like, wow, that's really really intense. But it's true because my
Mm.
mind gets caught up in the trappings of any and everything here. And Krishna's like, don't look at the Vedas and get caught up. Don't get caught up with all the flowery things that they say, all the obligations that they say you're gonna have, all the ways that society is gonna look at you. It's like, Arjuna, don't get caught up in the all the nice shiny things, even that the Vedas have to offer. It's like, look at me, trust me when I tell you, we're gonna have to go on this path together, and there's gonna need a lot of determination, but I'm with you. And that's what I love most. Krishna is not like, you're going to just have to be determined and you're on your own. Krishna is constantly saying, we have this determination and fortitude. He keeps putting himself in the same boat with us.
Mm.
And that gives me so much hope.
Yeah, and I love that you brought in going into this next verse where Krishna is telling Arjuna, like, don't get caught up with all this, like, flowery aspects of the Vedas that are dealing mostly with material kind of fruitive activities and stuff like that. And it's like Krishna's telling Arjuna this. And so we're understanding that there's a possibility for Arjuna, not a possibility, we see it happening, right? This is what happened in the end of the first chapter, where he's like getting caught up in all this, where it's like Arjuna, who's someone like, just such a high level of being, Arjuna is, and he's getting caught up in it. He's getting caught up in like, well, but if I do this, then this is going to happen. And if I don't do this, then all this is going to happen. And if I just, like all this stuff. And Krishna's just like, yo, just hold on a moment. Don't get caught up in all that stuff. And really what we're trying to do here, I love that you brought, what we're trying to do here is understand what is the purpose behind all of this anyway. Like, why are we doing, why are people studying the Vedas anyway? Why are people studying philosophy and all this stuff anyway? And that's why he goes on to that next verse, which is, it's such a beautiful image, right? That all purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. And similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. And later in the purport, as we know, the purpose is saying the purpose of studying the Vedas is to know Lord Krishna, the primeval cause of everything. So self-realization means understanding Krishna and one's eternal relationship with him. And so Krishna's almost like, and Krishna will go into this in detail as we go into the Bhagavad Gita, because in the earlier text, he says, this material world is ruled by the three gunas. And the purpose is to go beyond them. It's to transcend them. It's not to be caught up in them. And for those of you listening that don't know what the three gunas are and etc., like Krishna is going to break everything down into like super minute detail, which is something that I love about the Bhagavad Gita. It's like there's no stone left unturned. It's like we get into all of it. But to make it very foundational, these three gunas, or these three energies that rule the material world, Krishna is saying that don't be, the purpose is not to be lost in them, or to be arrested by them, or to be trying to figure them out, and rather it's to like go beyond them. And Krishna is going to give Arjuna various sciences, various paths of yoga of how to transcend, lots of options. Krishna's awesome. He's like, lots of options here. We're gonna go through it. And I think that that's so awesome and fascinating, because there, you were saying this, it's like the jiva, or the soul, the conditioned soul, we want that sense of control. We want that sense of like, but I have to do it. I have to go and do things for myself, whatever. And Krishna gets that, it's not like he doesn't get that. He gets that, and he's really accommodating, which I kind of love. Like, Krishna's like, okay, cool. Like, you want to be in charge? Fine. We're going to lay out these different paths of yoga for you, and I'm going to give you step by step how to do them. But spoiler alert, here's this last path of yoga that's like the easiest, and it's kind of like skipping the line, and it's super awesome. You just have to love me and be my friend. And it's like, whoa, okay, cool. And again, we go back to that aspect of surrender, and I'll end here because I know I'm ranting a little bit. Surrender is such a powerful concept that's very hard to do. It's like we can understand it from a conscious and logical level. It's like, yeah, I got to surrender to Krishna. But then, like, on a lived emotional heart soul level, it's like that surrender, whew, it's a tough one. Because if surrender was easy, we wouldn't be asking all these questions. If surrender is easy, Arjuna wouldn't be so worried and so like, oh, but what should I do? But that's not going to work. But I don't know. But this and this, If surrender was easy, we wouldn't be waking up every day like, but why is it like this, Krishna? Why can't I? Why?
I remember somebody was asking me about like raising a child and what that feels like. And I was like, well, simply put, the job is not hard, but it's so constant that it is tiring.
Mm,
And it will wear you down because it is constant every day. Surrender is not actually hard,
mm,
but it's so constant
mm,
that it needs such determination of spirit and character that it is wearying. You are tired. And I love that Krishna doesn't just say, look, we could stop this Bhagavad Gita at chapter 2. There's one way to reach me, and if you don't do it, you're lost.
mm,
But what he continues to say is, it's like, okay, there's this path and this path and this path and this path, and all these paths can look completely different, and
mm,
all roads lead back to me.
mm,
All roads are going to lead back to the same purpose behind the Vedas, which is, he's like, just be with me, just be my friend.
mm,
And I love that idea. Language is so important. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety.
mm,
We think we are going to surrender to Krishna, but we are also constantly thinking, but what happens to me when I surrender?
mm,
Krishna, I've given you all this. What is the all this, by the way? And it's like, what? Our intentions and free will?
mm.
Anyhow, but we say, I'm putting all this effort in, I'm giving you all of this, but what is going to happen to me? Am I going to feel secure? Am I going to feel safe? Is my life going to go down the drain immediately? Am I going to feel like I've gotten anything in return? Am I going to? And Krishna's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If you're surrendering to me, one, what makes you think that I wouldn't take care of you? Has that ever happened? And two, give up that thought to begin with, because it it it's giving ingratitude. We're saying
Mm,
it's surrender, but it's not really giving surrender. We're like, yeah, no, I can totally surrender to you, Krishna, but first we gotta have a negotiation of my 5 things that I really really want, and then I can surrender. And if I don't get those 5 things in said amount of time, then I will revoke my surrender.
mm.
I will pull it all right back into myself and go on pretending like you don't exist.
I always have to catch myself in the moments where I'm like, well, I'm surrendering, Krishna. Why aren't you reciprocating? Why isn't it happening? Or like, I did what you wanted me to do, so like, here I am. I think, and I think that that's really interesting, because I think that the more sometimes the more that we have, like, materially, not sometimes. The more that we have materially, the more attached we become to those things, and the more
More
afraid.
money, more problems.
More
Okay.
money, more problems, and the more afraid we become of losing them. And so it's like, when I might be in a certain way of life that is rewarding me in, some material way, but internally I feel depressed, which is like the majority of like the population. And there's perhaps another path presenting itself that might lead me towards, something different, where I'm not going to feel depressed, but I might have to make some sacrifices. It gets really scary, because it's like, but I have all these things, and I have this way of life, and I have all this control, and this is how I know things, and like I have all these comforts, and like, I'm not going to be able to deal if all of that goes away. And I remember, for anyone who has ever lived in an ashram, it's like, I moved into the ashram a little bit later. I was like 26 or 7, something like that. And usually people are moving into ashram, at least here in New York, like, they're like young, they're like 17, 18, kind of thing. And I remember, like, I had a job, I was like a professional, I had like an apartment and everything. And I had to go through those feelings of like, oh my God, I'm like literally giving up everything. Like, I'm just like getting rid of all my stuff and gonna live out of a little cubby. And it was really intense. And at the same time, it was really purifying, because it was just like, yeah, I'm going to trust that I'm going to be taken care of. And I have to keep on. And that's the thing. It's like, surrender's not hard. I love that. But it must be constant. Because in those moments where I found my mind going towards like, but what if everything falls apart, Krishna? And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, I chose to trust you, and I'm still going to choose to trust you. And that's the thing. It's like, you're choosing. It's like, that's kind of the power in it. Just like in any relationship, you're choosing to be in that relationship, you're choosing to continue it. And that choice is so powerful, and at the same time so like beautiful. There's so much love in that choice. Like, that's really my admission of love. It's like, I'm choosing you, Krishna, and I'm trusting you no matter what. And the last thing I'll say is that I think it's really funny too, because the more that we have, more problems, more money, more problems. And I was remembering this yesterday, because a lot of times people can be really, ungrateful, myself included. It's like, we find ourselves complaining a lot of just like, well, why isn't it like this? And like, why isn't it like that? And why is my life, and why isn't this person the way that I want it to be? And like, why didn't my Amazon order arrive when it was supposed to arrive? And
Okay,
then
because
Jose,
I pay for Prime,
I paid for Prime,
and 2 days have passed, and 2.5 days, and it's not
you know
here.
what? I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna complain. I'm
Unacceptable.
unacceptable.
I need a $5 rebate.
I'm gonna scream at the lady.
And it's not her fault. The poor Filipino lady that they have on the other side of the phone where she's answering and trying to just help you. It's not her fault, but now I'm going to yell at her.
Now I'm gonna yell at her. I'm gonna take out all my problems. But I was remembering, because I was talking about this with someone yesterday, and I was remembering when I was a kid. I had a lot of comforts. I was like, nice middle class, grew up in Queens in New York, had a house, all the things, all the comforts. But my parents were both immigrants from Ecuador. And my mom specifically was an immigrant from a poor family, like extremely poor. And so I grew up with a lot of like guilt, a lot of just like, you should be grateful because all your cousins in Ecuador are poor and they have nothing, and you have this food on your table, and like, we're giving you everything, and you still have the gall to just like be like complaining about, I didn't get the Nintendo 64 game that I wanted. And I remember, of course, when I was a kid, I was, when you're a kid, I didn't understand. I was just like, you don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
And as I grew older, and, I would always go to Ecuador as a child, but I remember the first time that I went, like really starting to understand things, was when I was like 12, 13. And that's when I really felt it. I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, like they have nothing and I have everything, and then as I grew up, I was just like really thankful to my mother that she like beat some sense into us. It was just like, yeah, like we really need to be grateful for the position that we're in. And I think wherever you're at, there can be found gratitude there, because I think that the worst place to be, now bringing this back to Krishna, is becoming bitter and becoming resentful and becoming angry with Krishna and thinking that Krishna is like a service provider. You didn't do this for me, and now I hate everything and hate everyone and hate you, Krishna. And like, oh, I don't have as much as this other person, so that means that God doesn't exist and everything is terrible, you know? And it's like, and that's where people go. Like, that's where
Oh
people
yeah,
go.
I get messages and emails about it
Yeah.
every day. I see so much of it.
So it's just like those reminders of gratitude, of like how good we have it in our path. It's like, wow, I've been on this life journey that brought me here. And here I am given this opportunity to skip over all the Vedas and just love Krishna, you know, as Krishna's telling Arjuna.
Yeah,
Like, am I going to take that chance, you know?
it's absolute magic, the fact that we get to skip over the line and have all of these opportunities. And I know we don't bring up any of this to like shame anybody, because there's always going to be somebody that has it worse.
Mhm.
And there's always going to be somebody in a worse situation. And it doesn't mean that you should just like give up any sense of feeling about your situation in life, but it does shine a light on the fact that we can't say, what if I've prayed and God has never done anything for me? Because I hear that a lot, right? What do I do? Because God's never done anything for me. And I'm always like, nothing. Because you writing to me on a device that some
Yeah.
people don't have. Okay, you're writing to me. And so it's just so easy to see how all it takes is one thing.
Mm,
Right? You get one thorn, and
mm,
that one thorn can cause such a big upheaval in the entire body and your entire living system. And we can decide that that thorn can ruin our entire day.
mm, mm,
And it's like the thorn might not, you can't even see it sometimes, but it's like, those things that hurt the most. It's like, what is it? It's like a paper cut.
mm.
And then getting like, if you get lemon juice in the paper cut and you're like, you have not known pain, you have lemon juice in a paper cut.
God.
And this is us in our material world situation. Like, we're like, Krishna, you don't understand the amount of pain that I am going through. One, why are you putting me through this pain? And two, why haven't you solved the problem already? And Krishna's like, that's a paper cut. Like, on the scale of suffering and things and karmic reactions, it's like, how come I'm going through all these karmic reactions and nobody else is going through karmic reactions? It's like, bro, you got a paper cut. And we're like, yeah, but you've never done anything for me. And we're like, it's just like you're breathing, walking, talking. You've got like all this stuff, and you're coming to me with the one paper cut. And Krishna is still not going to condemn us, and is still going to work his
Mm,
magic, and is still going to turn the situation around for us. He's never going to shut us out and be like, okay, I'm done. I can't with you. And yet we continue to come with the paper cuts in our lives. So we have to take a look at the situation. Is it a paper cut, or is there an actual like big wound?
mm,
Because there's a vast difference between the two, and sometimes we just have to look at, okay, yeah, you're right. This situation is a paper cut even in comparison to the rest of my day. You don't have to look at the rest of the world and what's going on out there, but just in comparison to the rest of our days, it's a good idea to just step back sometimes, gain a little perspective. Is it an actual wound, or is it just a paper cut?
I love that. That's so powerful, I think, because and this conversation is so good. I like literally just looked at the time and I was like,
I was like, oh wait.
oh, wait a minute. And it's like, but it's such a good, we're running fresh out of time, so we have to end. But I think it's just such a powerful image. Like, is this something like really deep, and like, let me give it its proper attention, and let me, seek for counsel, whatever it might be, or am I just like complaining about a tiny paper cut, and which one is it? And I really love that you brought this point in, that regardless of what we do, regardless of me getting in my feelings about a paper cut, or like me actually going through some really intense stuff, Krishna is not turning his back on us. And I think that that's the most powerful for me, because Krishna is not like this judgmental, angry, brimstone and fire God that's like, you were ungrateful, now to hell you go, like that. That's not Krishna. Like, Krishna's always there offering his love to us, and that's powerful. It's like, wow, even when I'm acting like a stubborn brat, Krishna is going to be there and love me. And so there's a lot of space for error, which is kind of comforting in a sense, because it's like, yeah, I am going to make mistakes, and yeah, I might be, a little brattish or stubborn or whatever in my ego, like that might happen, but Christian's going to be there for me. And actually, the supreme choice is with me. Like, am I gonna believe that? Am I gonna believe that Krishna is gonna be there for me no matter what? And the moment that you do believe it, and the moment that you do turn to Krishna, especially in those moments where you're thinking like, no, 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 he's not gonna want me, that's where the magic happens. When you like actually turn to him and you're like in your kind of raw state of like, no, no one loves me and I'm the worst and whatever, and you turn to Krishna, it's like that's where like the real magic and the real reciprocity happens. So thank you so much for bringing that up. We are running fresh out of time, so we're going to turn it away to Kimberly for our takeaways, and if you have any takeaways, please write them in the chat. What you got for us, Kimberly?
Thank you. Don't get caught up in the flowery and shiny things. The material world is an uphill battle, so we need determination, fortitude, and constant surrender. And the choice to trust Krishna is so powerful and magical.
So beautiful. That was so nice. And Martha in the chat says, we are his children, and as parents do, he will always love us and protect us and accept us. That's so beautiful. Achyuta, what are you walking away with today?
Throughout the ending of our conversation, I was just remembering, well, actually throughout this whole conversation, I've just been remembering Srila Prabhupada's one line, that faith is unflinching trust in something sublime. I trust Krishna. Am I trusting Krishna? And also then, listening to the takeaways, the words to like love is a battlefield just kept like, I was just kind of like jamming to it. Love is a battlefield. Yeah, so it's gonna be on repeat today. So both of those.
Love is a battlefield and Green Sleeves is going to be on repeat for me today.
Okay, that is
I'm going to do a mashup of the two. I'm gonna sing tonight at Thursday Night Kirtan. I'm gonna sing Maha Mantra to Green Sleeves. That's what's gonna
If
happen.
you could, that would make my night. I'm gonna show up just for that.
Oh, Krishna, I am walking away with this feeling of just remembering how good we have it, even though the world seemingly is falling apart, and everything is all bad and like whatever, as people say these days. Just really remembering how good we have it. We're here, we're connected, we're in Sangha, we've been given this beautiful opportunity to know and love Krishna, and we're here together, whether you're here on the live or whether you're listening to the recording. It's like this is such a beautiful opportunity to come together, and so I'm just feeling grateful. I'm walking away with gratitude. Okay.
And
Yes.
I feel like this is totally, tune in tomorrow, because Martha's comment, we are his children, and as parents do, he will always love us and protect us and accept us. I'm going to start with thought about that statement with a story from the Bible.
Yes.
We're going to make all roads come together.
Yes. I love it. Okay, Achyuta, everyone heard that? Come tomorrow. We're starting with a Bible story, which I'm very interested, to be very honest, because whenever people tell Bible stories, I have like religious trauma. I was like brought up in a crazy religion. So whenever someone's like, we're going to start with a Bible story, or we're going to, when someone's giving Srimad Bhagavatam class and they bring in a Bible story, I'm just like, let's see where this goes. I'm like filing my nails in the back, like, I don't know about this, So I'm excited to hear how this will all lead to Krishna. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much. Bye.
We know that our plants aren't just dependent on, we're not going in and just giving them fertilizer for what they need and what they're going to take right at that moment, which is kind of conventional and what you hear a lot of farms are doing. We really focus on the health of the soil, because we feed our soil, not our plants. Because if we take care of the soil is full of life, and that, in nature, we're not out there putting down nitrogen, we're not out there putting down fertilizers. So you really focus on the web of life in the soil, and you're going to have healthy plants. You look at, you know, some of the soils that lack diversity, or soils that you can see, you know, just aren't healthy. They have a really light color, or they're really loose. They don't have high organic matter. That plant's going to be a lot more susceptible to pest and disease pressure. So when we have a healthy, it's just like the human body. And this is what is important about like our connection with Dr. Weiss, is it really, you know, you focus on the immune system and the whole body rather than just treating a symptom, right? So we try and build a healthy system that can support, you know, healthy plants. And so here we have a diversity of plants, and this is kind of Nora's area. We do cut flowers, so we have many flowers that attracts a lot of beneficial insects and butterflies, which we really want to promote. Pollinators are definitely on the decline, so it's good to create a habitat. We always try and have flowering plants on the farm, not just with our cut flowers, but also we'll let some of our plants go to flower. And we have some cover crops, which you'll see that also are flowering and provide habitat for those pollinators. And this is kind of tiny. Not everyone's going to be able to see it, but this here is a small green worm. It's called a tomato hornworm. And if you grow tomatoes, you're probably familiar with them. They can get quite large. They have a little red horn on them, and they like to eat tomatoes, and they'll often chew the tops of the plants, which will basically kill your tomatoes. So they're a pest for us, but what you'll see on this one is you'll see all these little white larvae, and what that is a parasitic wasp that lays its eggs in the tomato hornworm, therefore parasitizing it, and as they hatch, they pretty much feed on the hornworm, and you can see this one is kind of turning to a goo. So he's no longer eating tomato plants. He's gonna die very soon. So we like to see that, and most of the hornworms we've seen this year we've seen this, the brachnid wasp and the larvae on the hornworms. So this is what I talk about when I say diversity. You know, if we didn't have good diversity here, we wouldn't see this. So we try to let nature take care of our pests, because that's the easiest way. And so, yeah, this tomato, so we lead these when we see them with this, because we know that these will hatch and they will carry on and further infect tomato hornworms in the future. So we'll kind of leave that in the garden.